It's pretty crazy how fast Blizzard is throwing content at us. We just had patch 0.5 put out a week ago, and now we already have patch 0.7 on the PTR, and this is going to be the patch that actually has some pretty decent content for us to do. I've been on the PTR and I had a chance to try out some of the new changes for this new patch, and I want to talk about them because I think there are actually some pretty significant changes and updates to the game. And before we get into all that stuff, I would just like to ask you guys to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. So first off, let's talk about some of the class changes. And I kind of just want to fly through these. I don't really want to go over every single bullet point. If you guys want to do that, you guys can check out the patch notes yourself. So with Unholy Death Knights, it looks like there's going to be quite a few talent swaps. Rotten Touch and Runic Mastery are getting some buffs. So they basically reworked Commander of the Dead, so now it's an aura because the previous version of it was basically just too difficult, and it kind of created these really tight windows for you to increase your damage, so it seems like it's going to be a lot smoother and it's going to be a lot easier to use now. Now let's talk about druids. So restoration druids are getting quite a few changes. So they're getting a new talent called Tranquil Mind, which is going to increase Omen of Clarity's chance to activate clear casting by 5%, and clear casting can stack one additional time. Another new talent is called Deep Focus. When Moonfire, Rake, Rip, or Rejuvenation are active on a single target, their effects are increased by 40%, so that one's pretty big. And then after that, they're just getting a bunch of changes through their talent tree, and it seems like they're kind of moving and shifting things around, so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when it's finished. So it looks like Evokers are getting a bunch of their abilities kind of changed, or I guess updated, and they're also getting some new spells too. So one of the new abilities they're getting is Aerial Halt, which is going to be a new dragon riding talent. Basically, it's going to be an ability to just have you slow down from going super fast. And like I said, they're getting some talent changes and swaps. Some talents are even being completely removed or just redesigned. And Devastation Evokers, Verdant Embrace healing is being increased by 35%. So that's going to help them a lot with their survivability. For Mistweaver Monks, Thunder Focus T now causes Enveloping Mist to become instant cast in addition to its current effect. Prot Paladins are getting some buffs with their increased block chance in Faith of the Light. Focused Immunity is now being redesigned, so Avenger Shield is now going to strike a single enemy. It's actually going to deal additional holy damage. And it's also worth mentioning that, like I said in my last video, Retribution Paladins are getting a major rework, and none of those changes are listed in here yet, so we're just going to have to wait until they put out those changes for us to kind of look over and see what they look like. So Shaman are getting some pretty big changes. The one I really want to talk about first is Earth Elemental and Primal Earth Elemental. So they're no longer going to taunt or pulse threat to enemies that the Shaman's not in combat with, and they're also not going to taunt or pulse threat to enemies that are attacking a player with a tank spec. So somebody please correct me if I'm wrong about this, but from what I'm understanding, that's basically getting rid of one of the really awesome things about having a shaman in your group. Because I've had so many situations where I've had a shaman in my group and, the tank is struggling, or, they just get too many ads and they're about to die, so the shaman will just pop Earth Elemental and it'll just, take some of that stress or, damage off the tank for a moment and kind of help the group recover. But it sounds to me like they're basically getting rid of that specific strategy. So that's really weird, because now it almost seems like the Earth Elemental is just only going to be good for shamans and solo content, or where they don't have a tank. But yeah, if I'm reading that correctly, I don't like that change at all. So besides that, they're also getting a ton of different buffs to some spells. They're getting a crap ton of talent swaps and adjustments. Resto Shamans are actually getting some buffs for their damage. Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning damage is both being increased to 35%, so that'll help them with their damage profile for Mythic Plus. But aside from that Earth Elemental change, it seems like Shamans in general are getting a lot of really nice changes here. So now looking at Dragon Riding, we're actually getting some new talents and abilities. And we're going to be collecting some Dragon Riding glyphs on the Forbidden Reach to unlock 2 new traits. The first one is called Aerial Halt, and it's basically just going to allow you to stop going so fast and kind of slow down. And then the other one is called Airborne Recovery, which is going to be activating Aerial Halt while affected by Thrill of the Skies is going to generate 1 Vigor. So the abilities that we have plus these is just going to be a really awesome combination and really allow us to just have more control over our dragon riding. There's a bunch of new customization stuff to be unlocked, so there's going to be 16 new manuscripts to collect. There's going to be 6 new races for us to participate in, and the Racing World quests icons have been updated, so they're going to be easier for us to see. The Balance of Power questline artifact appearance rewards are now account-wide, so basically if you completed a bunch of them on one character, they're going to be unlocked for that level on all of your characters. So it's just, one more nice thing to kind of just give us more options. For professions, Blizzard's adding a splash screen for our profession specializations, and it's supposed to basically kind of give us a more better visual representation of what each spec for our professions are going to be and kind of help explain them a little bit more. So as mentioned previously, we're going to be going to the Forbidden Reach Island, which is basically the starter area for the Evokers. And this place has now been turned into a new player hub. It's full of new elite rares to kill, there's new world quests to do here, there's new daily quests, treasures, new Primal Storm invasions, and it looks like they're adding a new Stormbound chest to the area, which is pretty similar to the Trial of Flood event. And honestly, that's not even the biggest draw to this new area. I think the biggest new feature that they are adding is this thing called the Zakara Vaults. So what are the Vaults? Well, it's this new gameplay mechanic where basically we need these keys to actually get in there, and we go into this dungeon and there's all these different locked rooms. And to get into each room, you need to have a key to unlock the door. And as you kind of go deeper into this vault, there's more loot and things to gather, there's mobs to kill and things to collect. And it seems like the only thing that's preventing you from going deeper into the vault is just by how many keys you have. So these keys are basically, from what I understand, a thing that can drop from doing activities on the Forbidden Reach. I didn't test doing stuff on the Dragon Isles, but I did get a key from looting a treasure chest on the Forbidden Reach island. So I think just killing rares in this area, doing the events, and just doing activities and participating on the Forbidden Reach is going to be the best way to get keys. And while I was down in the vault checking out the area and just looting everything, one of the rewards I got was a Primordial Stone, which is a new thing that we're going to be trying to collect in the new patch. So basically, there have been a ton of these different Primordial Stones that got data mined. Each of these stones have different effects to them. So you're definitely going to want to try to get certain ones or target specific ones depending on, your class or spec. The one I picked up was called the Cold Frost Stone, which basically grants me frost armor every 20 seconds, absorbing damage and slowing melee attackers. But here you can see the list of all the currently data mined stones that we've found. And as you can see, some of these have some really interesting effects. And it looks like, as of right now, you guys can only put these into items that have what's called primordial sockets. And it looks like today a new item was data mined in the PTR, which is called an Onyx Amulet, which comes with 3 sockets for Primordial Stones. And I'm guessing this amulet is probably going to be something that jewel crafters can craft. But again, this is all just really initial, early kind of data mine stuff from the patch, so take it with a grain of salt. But I've already seen people on the forums and just, on the internet in general, already freaking out and saying this is, some borrowed power bull crap or, Shards of Domination 2.0. I think it's too early to be freaking out and saying the sky is falling. I think we should probably just kind of wait and see how this whole system plays out once it's all fully implemented. And I'm already seeing people make the argument saying like, oh, this is, borrowed power, Blizzard hasn't learned a thing, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, I think there's a big difference between borrowed power and borrowed power. Because, let's look at tier set bonuses for an example. That's borrowed power, but no one seems to get mad about that, and in fact, people were happy that Blizzard brought tier sets back to the game. So my point is that there's good ways to do borrowed power, and there's bad ways to do borrowed power. So I think if Blizzard can thread that needle and make it a good way to do borrowed power, then I think we're going to be in a good spot. I think the reason why people hated the Shards of Domination system so much was just because of, it was one of those situations where, you needed the certain ones to do really good damage, and if you didn't have those, your DPS was just dog water. And with the Shards of Domination, you got those shards by killing bosses in the raid. But it looks like you're not going to be getting these from the raid. And these Primordial Gems look like they just come out of the vault, and the vault is soloable. So it looks like it's probably going to be a lot easier to get these things instead of the Shards of Domination. And honestly, these things are giving me some really strong legendary Diablo 3 vibes. So I think, depending on the combination of these that you pick up for your character, it's probably going to significantly alter the way you play your character, which sounds really cool. And kind of going back to what the vault kind of feels like to me, it gives me really strong vibes from the Withered Army training that we did in Suramar for Legion. And you're kind of just making your way through, you're trying to get as far as you can and collect stuff along the way. And this feels nothing like Torghast. This feels way more fun and it just kind of gives you the feeling that you're going in and you're just getting a bunch of stuff. So Yeah, I think the only downside to this system is that it's definitely going to reward players that spend more time killing rares and just farming stuff on the island than people that don't have a lot of time. So I think that's probably the only really big negative to this system. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I mean, maybe there's a cap to how many keys you can get per week. So I think if they did that, then I think this system would be a little bit more friendly to players. And then another thing to talk about for the new patch is that we're going to actually be able to transfer Primal Chaos to alts. So there's going to be a satchel called the Satchel of Coalescing Chaos that's going to be sold by Rebul in Valdrakken. It costs 80 Primal Chaos, and it's going to provide you with 60 Primal Chaos. So you're losing 20 in the process of, being able to transfer it to a new character. And that should wrap up this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the new Primordial Stones or just the Vault in general. I know this is probably going to be a super controversial topic for a lot of players, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see what everyone thinks about it. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and we'll see you guys next time.